We thought we knew Ghost. The nightclub owner. The drug kingpin. The man trying to escape his past. But what if the version we saw on screen was only the surface? Recently, Omari Hardwick, the man who was Ghost, hinted that there's more we never saw. That the Ghost we followed for 6 seasons. When Power first hit our screens in 2014, it didn't take long for the world to lock in. This wasn't just another crime drama. It had weight. It had emotion. And at the center of it all, there was one man, James St. Patrick, aka Ghost. Played by Omari Hardwick, Ghost became one of the most complicated and talked about characters on TV. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was both. And that's what made him so unforgettable. Asterisk from the outside, Ghost had it all. The suit, the charm, the money, the influence. He owned a nightclub, had powerful connections, and was building a life that looked clean. But under the surface, he was still a drug dealer, one foot in the streets, the other in high society. For many fans, this double life was the core of the show's tension. Every episode was like watching a man walk a tightrope. One wrong move and everything could fall apart. Asterisk, but Power was never just about crime. It was about identity, about transformation, about how hard it is to leave behind the person you once were. Ghost wasn't just trying to get out of the drug game, he was trying to erase a part of himself. He wanted to become someone else, someone better. But the more he tried, the more his past pulled him back. The streets didn't forget. His enemies didn't forgive. And even the people he loved didn't always believe he could change. Asterisk still, Omari Hardwick gave Ghost something special, something you couldn't write into a script. He gave him heart. He gave him layers. You could see the pain behind the eyes, even when Ghost didn't say a word. That's why fans connected with him. He wasn't just a character. He felt real. And when he fell, it hit hard. Asterisk, but here's the twist. Just when we thought we had seen everything there was to see, Omari drops a hint. In a recent interview, he suggested that the Ghost we watched on screen was only part of the story. That there's a side to this man we never got to meet. A deeper origin. A hidden truth. And suddenly, fans are asking the question all over again. Who was the real Ghost? Asterisk, was he born in violence? Did something dark happen long before the show ever began? Was the man we met in episode 1 already wearing a mask? Asterisk, we're used to prequels showing where characters came from. But what if the Ghost we thought we knew wasn't even the beginning? Asterisk, Omari's tease has shaken the fanbase. It's not just about nostalgia, it's about mystery. If the actor who lived in that role for years is saying we missed something, maybe we did. Maybe there's a secret tucked inside Ghost's past that changes everything. Asterisk. This is what makes great characters stick with us. They're not black and white. They're grey. They make us think. They make us guess. And Ghost? He made us believe he could outrun who he was. Now, we're not so sure. Asterisk, in the next section, we'll dive into Omari's actual words. What he said, what he hinted at, and why fans are convinced the story of Ghost is far from over. The full story. It started as a quiet moment in an interview. Omari Hardwick wasn't trying to cause a stir. He wasn't promoting a new season. He wasn't even on a press tour. But when the topic of Power came up specifically, the character of Ghost, Omari leaned in. He spoke carefully, thoughtfully. And then he said it. Asterisk, greater than, you never really met the real Ghost. Asterisk, that one sentence was all it took. Fans hit pause. Replayed the clip. What did he mean? Was he talking about a missed storyline? Was this a tease for a future project? Or was he simply being poetic? But Omari didn't stop there. In that same conversation, he hinted that there were pieces of Ghost that never made it to the screen. Moments that were written, or even imagined, that never got filmed. He talked about ideas he had shared with the creators, ideas that dug deeper into Ghost's past, into his trauma, his childhood, his real motivations. Asterisk, to many, it felt like Omari was peeling back the curtain on something bigger. A version of Ghost that didn't fit the polished nightclub owner we saw. Something more raw, more wounded, more dangerous. Asterisk, he wasn't just a businessman. He wasn't just a husband or a father. Ghost was built from pain, from something the world never got to see. That line changed everything. Because now, Ghost wasn't just a character trapped in a crime story. He was someone who may have been shaped by darkness long before the first episode aired. Maybe his hunger for power wasn't about greed. Maybe it was about survival. Maybe the slick suit and the fine words were just armor for something broken underneath. Asterisk, Omari even suggested that he had to hold back certain parts of Ghost because the show's timeline didn't allow room to explore them. He said that Ghost's true origin was like a locked door that never got opened. Asterisk, and now that door is creaking open. Asterisk fans began revisiting old episodes, watching them with new eyes. Suddenly, Ghost's cold decisions, the betrayals, the lies, even the killings took on new meaning. Were those actions part of a master plan? Or were they reactions to an unspoken past? Asterisk, was Ghost haunted by something deeper than the drug game? Asterisk, Omari also revealed how personally he connected to the role. He didn't just act the part, he felt it. He lived it. He once said Ghost was the most exhausting, most rewarding role he's ever played. Not because of the action scenes, or the long filming days, but because of the emotional weight. There was something about Ghost that touched a nerve. Asterisk, I brought a lot of myself to him, Omari said. More than people know. Asterisk, that right there, that's the key. If Omari saw pieces of himself in Ghost, then it makes sense that he would protect the character, shape him, guard the layers that maybe the writers didn't always have time to show. Asterisk, and that's what makes his recent words hit harder. Because this isn't just an actor reflecting. This feels like a man letting us in on a secret, a part of the story that never made it into the script. Asterisk, maybe Ghost wasn't just hiding from the world. Maybe he was hiding from himself. Asterisk, Omari's tease has lit a fire in the fanbase. People are speculating. Was Ghost abused as a kid? Did he lose someone early in life? Was there a betrayal that shaped his view of love, loyalty, and power? These aren't wild guesses, they're questions that make sense. If you listen closely to Omari's tone, asterisk, and it's not just fans talking. Some insiders close to the Power universe have hinted that more could be coming. A deeper look. A prequel. Maybe even a spin-off focused entirely on Ghost's younger years. Not the club owner, not the drug lord, but the boy who would become a legend. Asterisk, it's a new mystery now. Not about who killed Ghost, but about who made him. Asterisk, in the next section, we'll dig into that very idea. What made Ghost? What were the ingredients? The pain? The choices? The secrets? We'll explore the layers of the man fans thought they knew, and why. Omari says we were only scratching the surface. Asterisk, you don't get a character like Ghost without building him in layers. He wasn't a simple villain. He wasn't a hero either. Ghost lived somewhere in between, a man wearing many faces. One for his wife, one for his mistress, one for his business, and one for the streets. But which one was real? Asterisk, Omari Hardwick once said, Ghost was every man. He was ambition. He was pain. He was the dream and the nightmare at the same time. That quote tells you everything. Ghost wasn't just a role Omari played. He was a mirror, a reflection of what power does to a person. And what it costs. Let's break down the layers. First, there's James St. Patrick, the businessman. The man who wanted out. Clean money, legal success, political power, he believed. He could transform his life. Open a club, make connections, run for office. On the surface it looked like redemption. But look closer, and you see a man obsessed with control. James wasn't just trying to leave the drug world. He was trying to rewrite who he had ever been. Asterisk. He wanted to erase Ghost. Asterisk. Then there's Ghost. The identity he could never shake. The one he needed to survive. The one who knew how to move. In silence. How to handle enemies. How to stay 10 steps ahead. Ghost wasn't emotional. He was strategic. And when things got messy, he didn't hesitate. Whether it was killing a threat or cutting ties with people he loved, Ghost always protected the empire. Asterisk. That split the man versus. The mask was what made the show tick. Ghost couldn't live as James. And James couldn't survive without Ghost. It was a war inside one man. And we watched it play out season after season. Asterisk. But Omari Hardwick hinted that even this duality was only part of the picture. He said the audience never saw the full truth, because Ghost had buried it so deep even from himself. That means everything we saw, the rage, the love, the betrayal, may have been filtered through a lens we didn't understand. Asterisk. Why was Ghost so obsessed with legacy? Why did he push away people who loved him, only to chase approval from those who used him? Why did he lie so easily, kill so calmly, and yet break down in private moments? Asterisk. The answer might live in his past, a past we never got to fully explore. Omari suggested that Ghost carried childhood wounds, traumas never named, only hinted at. Maybe he grew up poor. Maybe he saw violence early. Maybe someone betrayed him so deeply that he decided, never again. Never be weak. Never be exposed. Asterisk. This theory tracks with how Ghost treated people. He kept them close, but never too close. He loved Angela, but always feared losing her. He raised Tariq, but couldn't fully connect with him. He worked with Tommy, but never fully trusted him. Asterisk. He was a man building a castle on sand, and he knew it. Another layer is Ghost's relationship with power itself. It wasn't just about money or survival. It was about identity. When Ghost had power, he felt like he mattered. When he was in control, he wasn't that scared kid from the past anymore. He was someone the world had to respect. That's why losing power broke him. Every time he got close to escaping, something pulled him back. A rival. A mistake. A betrayal. Ghost never truly climbed out of the life, because maybe, deep down, he didn't want to. Omari played all these notes with precision. One look, one pause, one tear, you could feel Ghost's mind racing, calculating, herding. And that's what made him unforgettable. Because we weren't just watching a drug dealer, we were watching a man at war with himself. Even his. Death wasn't just about who pulled the trigger. It was about the cost of living with so many masks for so long. You can only juggle so many lies before one drops and shatters everything. And now, knowing what Omari has hinted at, fans are asking, what more is there? What did we miss? What part of Ghost's origin, his childhood, his trauma, his first steps into crime was left untold? Maybe Ghost didn't start as a killer. Maybe he started as a kid trying to protect someone. Maybe the streets didn't corrupt him, they saved him. Or maybe they broke him in a way no one could ever fix. In the next section, we'll look at how Omari's personal connection to Ghost helped shape the role, and how his influence behind the scenes might have hidden deeper meanings we still haven't unpacked. Because if Ghost really was part fiction, part autobiography, then the line between character and actor is thinner than we thought. When we talk about great characters on TV, we usually give credit to the writers, the dialogue, the storyline. But sometimes it's the actor, the soul behind the role, that makes the character unforgettable. And when it comes to power, Ghost wasn't just written, he was lived. Omari Hardwick didn't just play him, he became him. And in doing that, he brought layers, decisions, and energy to the screen that weren't always in the script. Omari has said in multiple interviews that Ghost was the most demanding role of his career. But not just because of the long hours or dramatic scenes. It was personal. Deeply personal. Omari poured pieces of his own life into Ghost, his pain, his drive, his silence, his history. And that made a difference. Let's start with the emotional depth. Ghost didn't cry. Often, he didn't beg. He didn't always explain himself. But when he did let something slip, when you saw the pain in his eyes, the weight on his shoulders, you felt it. That wasn't acting. That was experience. Omari once admitted that some of Ghost's darkest moments reminded him of struggles from his real life. Times when he felt boxed in, misunderstood, pressured to carry everyone else's expectations. You could see that in how Ghost moved. How he clenched his jaw when things fell apart. How he paused just long enough before speaking, like he was holding back a storm. That subtle body language. That wasn't on the page. That was Omari channeling something. Even the way Ghost dressed, the way he wore that suit like armor, came from a real place. Omari has said he fought hard to make Ghost look powerful but never flashy. Because to him, Ghost wasn't trying to show off. He was trying to hide. Every polished outfit, every clean fade, every calculated move, it was a cover. A way to keep the chaos inside from spilling out. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Omari wasn't just an actor. On set, he was a creative force. He was in the writer's ears. He was in the director's room. And from day one, he asked deeper questions. Why does Ghost do this? What's he really afraid of? What happened to him before we met him in Episode 1? Those questions pushed the show in new directions. Omari has said that there were moments he didn't agree with in the script. He would step in not to change the story for ego, but to protect the character. To make sure Ghost made sense. That his actions had meaning. Because to Omari, Ghost was real. He had to move with logic, with purpose, even when he was making mistakes. That level of commitment is rare. He even helped shape how Ghost talked. Omari gave Ghost a rhythm, a way of speaking that felt both street and refined. He could switch from cold businessman to angry hustler in one breath. That duality. That was Omari fine-tuning every line, every silence, every stare. And there's another layer. Ghost's poetry. A few times in the series, we see Ghost think out loud, reflect, speak in ways that sound almost like spoken word. That wasn't a coincidence. Omari Hardwick is a poet in real life. A published one. He's a man who sees the world through rhythm and emotion. And when you realize that, you start hearing Ghost differently. His words weren't just tough talk, they were coded. Thoughtful. A man bleeding through the cracks in his mask. Even more revealing. Omari has said he sometimes felt like he was Ghost, that the lines between character and reality blurred. The emotional toll was so heavy that, during filming, he isolated himself, pulled away from people, stayed in a dark place so he could bring the truth to the screen. And it shows. When Ghost loses Angela, when he fights with Tasha, when he breaks down in front of Tommy, those moments weren't just acted. They were felt, deeply. You're watching a man struggle with regret, fear, love, power, and underneath all of it, pain. Omari made sure you saw that. Even when the script didn't say it out loud. But maybe the most powerful thing Omari gave Ghost was mystery. He didn't over-explain. He didn't give you everything. He made you wonder, guess, lean in. That's what keeps a character alive after the show ends. And now, with Omari teasing that we never saw the real Ghost, fans are starting to understand. Maybe it wasn't just the story that was holding back. Maybe Omari was saving something. Protecting a version of Ghost that never got to speak. A version that could still return. In the next and final section, we'll explore what comes next. Could a Ghost prequel actually happen? Is Omari still connected to the Power universe? And what are fans saying now that this new mystery is out in the open? Because if Ghost was only showing us half the truth, then maybe, just maybe, his story isn't over. So now we're here, standing at the edge of something deeper. For years, fans thought they knew Ghost. We watched him build an empire, lie to his family, protect his son, kill his enemies, and try, over and over, to break free from the life we thought. We saw his rise and fall. But if Omari Hardwick is right, maybe that was just the middle of the story. Because before there was a kingpin, there was a kid. And now, fans are starting to ask the real question. What happened before Power? What kind of childhood builds a man like Ghost? What kind of trauma makes you hide behind so many masks? What event turns a boy with dreams into a man who believes power is the only way to survive? Omari's recent comments didn't just hint at an origin. They opened the door to a whole new story. A story we haven't seen yet. A Power origins. And the timing couldn't be better. The Power universe has already expanded. We've had Power Book 2, Ghost following Tariq's journey. Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, showing how a young hustler becomes a street legend. And Power Book 4, Force following Tommy's path. Each spin-off dives deeper into the characters we thought we knew. But Ghost? He's the one fans still feel the most connected to, the most curious about, the one whose past feels unfinished. We saw where he ended. We lived through the chaos. But we never saw how it began. And maybe that's the point. Omari Hardwick knows something we don't. He's spoken with Courtney Kemp, the show's creator. He knows the conversations that happened behind closed doors, the unused scripts, the backstories that were written and then shelved. And now, for the first time, he's hinting that it's not over. The real Ghost. You haven't met him yet. That one line has set the internet on fire. Fans are imagining everything, from a teenage Ghost running the streets of Queens, to his first meeting with Tommy, to his early heartbreaks that shaped his views on love and trust. There's a hunger for it now. People don't want just another sequel. They want the beginning. And honestly, it makes sense. Ghost's story has always felt mythic, like something bigger than life. You don't just erase a character like that, not when the man who played him is still invested. Still talking about him. Still carrying pieces of him. Omari has even hinted that, under the right conditions, he might return. Not just in flashbacks or memories, but in a full story. One that goes back in time. One that lets Ghost finally speak the truth. His truth. From the beginning. Imagine the possibilities. A young Ghost. Before the club. Before the wife. Before the crime world took everything from him. What if he was once just a kid with ambition? A kid who saw a system that would never give him a chance, and decided to take it by force. And what if that first kill wasn't about greed, but survival? It could be raw, honest, tragic, and powerful. And fans are ready. Social media is full of posts, theories, and open letters to Omari and the mock creators. Give us the origin. Tell the full story. Let Ghost live again. Because at the end of the day, Ghost was never just a drug dealer or a club owner. He was a symbol of what it means to rise, to fall, to dream, and to lose yourself along the way. Omari Hardwick lit the flame again. Whether he meant to or not, he reminded everyone that Ghost was more than just a character. He was a mystery. A man we thought we understood. Until now. And maybe, just maybe, he's not done speaking.